That's really kind of crazy. I kind of
Right?
love that we came to that conclusion.
Like, what?
Boom, and we are recording. Bwah, 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 bwah.
Womp, 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 womp. Clearly, not in the garage because the lighting's better here.
I decided to go
I have
back.
better lighting in the garage than in the house.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I decided to go back to what my actual name was and take my shirt off for this one.
There
So,
you go.
yeah. Had to go back to that.
Yeah, that's not happening.
You join in anytime you want.
No thanks. Melissa's like, are you gonna do it too? I'm like, no one wants to see that. Even you don't want to see that.
We got my O2 recovery water.
I hear you're hawking that now.
I am. It's great. That's why I just did it, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Put it out that
some
I'm
of
also
that.
a YouTuber.
The same drive the traffic of the same people who are Tolkien fanatics that are CrossFit freaks.
There's got to be some of us, right?
There's got to be one other one, right?
There's some sort of crossover there.
So yeah, I haven't been boning up on my Aulë. I'm taking this like I took most of my classes in college and just kind of gonna wing it.
Nice. All right. I mean, look,
so,
you've read Tolkien Gateway enough.
I've read enough Gateway. I've read Silmarillion, so I kind of know, and I have my opinions of him, right? After kind of rereading it and going, oh, well, right? And so I think I brought this up, and I'm like, Aulë's he's kind of a useful idiot, right?
Yeah.
For all the bad actors in Middle Earth, right? And he starts off by kind of screwing up.
Yeah. Like right out the gate.
In creating the dwarves. Yeah, right. In creating the dwarves, he totally screws up, right? Like Morgoth is hell-bent on creating life and essentially gets shunned by everybody.
Right.
But Aulë makes dwarves and it's okay.
Right, but like in him, it's more innocent, right?
Yeah, because he's a useful idiot.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he was like the dumb one in the family. All right, I'm just letting you know right now. You're probably gonna want to edit this out. The Dodgers are 3 outs away from winning the World Series, so I'm probably gonna like mute myself and turn off my camera and celebrate.
All right.
You can edit that in however you want.
Okay, great.
But on a side note, I have you here. I have my phone here. 3 outs away. Let's go.
I had no idea that the World Series was even happening.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
you're more interested in thruster races.
Yeah, it was a great weekend of thruster races. And they actually had an event where they did thruster races.
I couldn't. I mean, we're talking about something completely different, right?
It doesn't matter.
Probably have to edit back from the first part of the conversation, but I just couldn't get into it.
Yeah.
Like knowing, like I like Tia. I'm really not crazy about Matt Frazier, but I couldn't get excited. It's just like so you won. From what I saw, he won every event except for he lost the deadlift portion, and that's 2 outs away. 2 outs away from winning the World Series. He lost the deadlift. He lost the deadlift portion of CrossFit Total, and that's I think all he lost of what I had seen.
Yeah, he lost 2 events.
Which other event?
He took
which other events?
So he lost the CrossFit Total.
I thought he won that.
No, he lost the total.
Did he?
Yeah, Adler won.
No.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, the Canadian won the total. So he lost the total, and then he lost the swim, the assault bike swim, THC med ball thing.
Yeah.
Samuel Quant won that one.
Oh, and then the last thing.
He won it.
He get last on that one?
No, like that's
they
the
won
thing.
it?
No. So Tia came in third, but Matt came in first. Like that's how bad the men were at that event.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so he came in fifth overall, I guess?
Yeah. Yeah.
Men and women?
Yeah. Like they were that bad at it. The other men, so they were like Tia and Matt were just casually.
See, that's
running.
not exciting.
That's not his fault. That's the rest of the crowd's fault.
No, it's Castro's fault. He needs to make it. He needs to make like. I'm glad Tia won. There were events that she's not good at, like the handstand walk one. Like
right.
She wasn't good. Like she came in dead last in that one. And there were events that she lost throughout the day that kind of made it seem like, well, the problem is with like the point system and her being so dominant, like her losing 1, 2, 3 events doesn't really matter when, those other 3 events are geared more towards, 3 separate people. Right. You froze, and I don't know if I froze, but
no, and I'm back.
Let me know. Yeah, let me know if my picture goes away. So it's a lot. It was a lot easier to be more enthusiastic about her, I guess, and it's just
but
more.
What can Castro do?
I don't know. Like
that's the thing. Like, what could he do? Like, Matt is just great at fucking everything.
I know. Whatever.
like, what are you gonna do? How are you gonna program against him?
I don't know. I don't program, so I wouldn't know what to program for him. I'd find like the thing is like anything like they interviewed him. 1 out away. Okay. So.
All right.
Where was I?
Talking about Aulë being a useful idiot.
Talking about Aulë being a useful idiot. So he starts off, and he makes the dwarves, right? And that's kind of like, for me, that was just kind of like like you're not supposed to make life, right? But yet he made life,
right?
And so then that's one thing, right? And then I was reading more about it, and it's like, oh, and I knew this, right? I knew this part of the legend, right? Is that Sauron was Myron, right? And he was his student, right?
Right.
And the whole reason for he taught everyone who wanted to make stuff. He was excited to teach people.
So right, because Melkor had already been south.
One strike. Yeah. And so then he trained, and we just won. The Dodgers win the World Series.
Womp, 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 womp. I don't care, but woo!
Oh yeah, 32 years. Okay. All right, I'm gonna celebrate later. All right. Oh my God.
Take a minute.
Okay.
Take a minute.
So. Oh my God, they made a huge mistake. Like their pitcher was like ridiculous for the Rays, and they pulled him like in the 5th inning, and it's just like, and then it opened up after that, and then
it was against the Tampa Bay Rays.
Yeah, the Tampa Bay Rays, and their pitcher was just beat. It was phenomenal. Couldn't get a hit off of him, and then the second they pull him, we get a guy on like there's like a wild throw, one guy scores, and then a hit, another guy scores, and we just took the lead there. All right.
Excellent.
I'm gonna watch all that later tonight. So he trains Myron, right? And we know that he was spying for Morgoth the entire time, right? So, okay, maybe that's not on him, but now you got like a track record, right? You done fucked up by creating dwarves, right?
Right.
Pissing off your wife by
That's
doing it.
That's my favorite part. That's my favorite part of the whole thing, is that part where he's just like, I mean, they're still gonna need firewood. Like, sorry.
Yeah.
I love that part.
So you create the dwarves, and so you piss off your wife, and then you train Myron, who is spying for Morgoth. Like you should kind of know, right? Because you're the more powerful of the the Valar are more powerful of the Ainur, right? They're better than the Maya. And then later on, to combat the guy that you trained, you send Saruman, right? And then he turns.
Well, and not just that, but
he doesn't have a really good.
He also taught the Noldor, right?
Yes, yeah. He just taught anyone who wanted to learn. He was not picky about the students that he picked.
He was not choosy at all.
So yeah, my whole thing with Aulë was like, how do you not know? And I guess like when I guess at the point when you start training Myron, who becomes Sauron, and he turns, right? And he becomes a traitor, do you not go like, okay, I should be more picky about the people that I teach things to, right? Like that should have been his clue. And he's just kind of dumb. And he's just a dumb. He's one of the dumber ones. And I can't think of anyone else who's as dumb as he is.
Well, honestly, I think Manwë, like, and that's the weird thing, is like this trinity of like high people seem to be the most ignorant. You know what I mean? Because, I mean, really, Manwë's the same way, right? He's the one that sits here and he's like, oh, well, we'll chain him and he'll be fine. He'll be reformed. It won't be a big deal. It's like, really?
It's been an age. We can let him go.
Like, that's not how this works.
Yeah.
But yes, I do agree with you. Like, especially with Aulë, with all of the people that he like went through and trained, because, like you said, not only was it with the dwarves, and then with Sauron, and then with the Noldor, like he's teaching people again. It's this idea of like he just wants friends. He just wants somebody to talk to and to teach.
He's impatient, and that's the way he's described as. Right. And it's bad judgment on everybody's part to let him be involved in anything, that might affect Middle Earth more, right?
Anything moving forward.
Well, like it was more like my frustration with it. It's like, whatever, like the dwarves, like, that's stupid. He shouldn't have done that. Like, clearly you shouldn't have done that.
But then we got dwarves out of it, and dwarves.
But then we got dwarves out of it, and it's fun. But he broke the rules, right? And he shouldn't have been making dwarves. My whole thing with it was the Saruman aspect of it, and when I saw that and I reread that, and I was like, like, wait a minute. Like, didn't he also teach, like, Sauron? Like, wasn't, like, and then I was like, what is it with this guy? Like, why is he so bad when it comes to the people that he teaches?
Yeah. I mean, I think you're...
Yeah. And then they shouldn't have let him choose one of the wizards to go. And if they were going to do it, they shouldn't have made him the head of the wizards that are supposed to go and help stop Sauron. Right?
Well,
okay, like, you do get a pick. Like, yours could be like the blue and the blue Astari that, like, disappeared. No one ever hears of them, right? Like, you know, you would think that Manwë would have been like, you know, no, like, my guy, I'm the head of the Valar.
Yeah.
I made this guy go, right? He's the one that's going to be in charge, which is what they wanted.
Right. I mean, it's kind of Gandalf's own fault.
Right. So I should be mad at Gandalf?
Well, maybe. I mean, for that part, yeah, because even Galadriel was like,
yeah,
you know, I mean, like, fucking Círdan, as soon as they came over, he was like, yeah, you're the one, here's the ring. You know, like, everybody was putting their faith in Gandalf, and then, but Gandalf was too, like, I mean, he was to a point where he was too humble, you know? But at the same time, like, would we have gotten the same Gandalf? Would we have gotten the Wandering Wizard if he was put into this position of power where he needed to be, like, the head of the council?
No, I mean everything what we're talking about right now is we're discussing how it should have ended, right?
Right.
And it's like, have you seen that?
Oh yeah.
And it's like they had the one where they're like flying on the birds and like, this is a lot easier, like dropping in the volcano, right? And then I think that led to, like, everybody's like, oh, that's what Gandalf meant when he said fly. It's like, oh, go to the Eagles.
Fly.
Like, no, I don't think that would have worked. Yeah. And so, yeah, we're doing a lot of like, well, he should have done this, and then all this would have been avoided, right?
Right.
But those are my 2 cents about why I think.
Well, and I can't remember. Have you?
Aulë, yeah.
Have you gotten into some of the, like, the first, like, what the Silmarillion, like, came from? So, like, the Lost Tales.
No, not yet.
So in the Lost Tales, it gets into a few other things.
Yeah, there's like a box set of like the histories of Middle Earth or something like that. It's not the histories. Yeah, it's like a 12-volume like set. But like the Lost Tales Part 1 and 2 is part of it.
Yeah, so that's essentially just a reread of the Silmarillion, right? But it's a little bit different. But in that, they talk about, so, you know, at the very beginning, right, they come down and they're like, and we'll talk about this in the next episode too, because this is kind of that time frame that we're going to talk about. But like, they come down and they're like, the fuck is this? Because it's just a blank slate, essentially. And so they want light. And Yavanna asks Aulë to make 2 towers, right? And they put light in those towers. But in the Lost Tales, so what it was beforehand, Melkor actually helps in the building of those towers. And
this was the other thing.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
You mentioned it. You told me that, and I was like, and then that added to my like, see, he's a fucking idiot.
Yeah, because so
Melkor like helps him do. He essentially builds the thing that he's going to destroy later.
Yeah,
and he knows how to destroy it.
Yeah, well, and he builds it on purpose in a very specific way because they basically use ice.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, we're going to put fire at the top of this ice tower. And Aulë is just like, yeah, I mean, sure, why not? And Melkor's just like, And it starts out with him just, and like, look, I feel bad for the guy because also in that same time period, it talks about how difficult it's been for him because essentially Melkor is like walking through all of Arda and seeing like, oh, they built this mountain, fuck this mountain. Oh, they created this valley, fuck this valley, you know, and they're doing all this stuff. And so like Aulë is having to go back through and like rebuild all of this stuff. And I think that's another part of it is like he's doing all of this and he's like, I just want somebody to help me. Like, can somebody just be nice and help me? And then because of that, he just picks the wrong people constantly.
He's a bad boss.
Yeah, he's the person with all of the knowledge. Like all of the knowledge that will help bad people be bad, and he accidentally gives it away constantly.
Yeah. Aulë, unfortunately, drives the plot for the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
In a certain way, right? Like
right.
It's his actions that have kind of resulted in like most of the stories, right? So it's like if he doesn't make the dwarves, right, then the dwarves don't have beef with the elves, right?
Right.
Even though some of them don't have beef with the elves, but you know, Thingol then doesn't get killed by a bunch of dwarves.
Right.
Yeah. You know, if he doesn't teach Sauron, then Sauron really isn't, like, he's still helpful to, you know, Morgoth, but is he as good, right? Because I mean, he doesn't make the rings. Sauron doesn't make the rings if he doesn't learn under Aulë.
Yeah, if he doesn't know how to smith in like that magic sense, then he's not going to make those rings.
Right. And so then you really don't really have a second or third age, really.
No, well, and not just that, but even in the first age, like you think about it moving forward, like, do you think Fëanor would have learned how to make those gems without like being taught by Aulë?
Right.
Like,
wouldn't have. Yeah. Like, his teachings help drive the plot.
He really does. Oh man. This is why you wanted to do this on Aulë, huh?
What? That just came to me right now. Like, I just realized that his teachings essentially drive the plot of everything in the Lord of the Rings that we know, right? That most people know of the Lord of the Rings, right? Silmarillion, right? Aulë. The Hobbit. Well, yeah, kind of. Aulë.
I mean, because of the dwarves. Right? I mean, it's a dwarven story.
It's a dwarven story, right? And Bilbo finds the One Ring, right?
Right.
And then the Lord of the Rings, right?
Yeah.
There is no, and all that stuff that happens, right? Like you know, if he doesn't teach Fëanor, right, then the Noldor don't go back to Middle Earth, right? If the Noldor don't go back to Middle Earth, where am I going with this? I had somewhere that I was going with this. The Noldor don't go back to Middle Earth. Oh man, I lost it. I had it and I lost it. It'll come back to me.
All right. You had a line.
I had a line that I was going for. And it's like Fëanor doesn't go to Middle Earth, and the Noldor don't go back to Middle Earth. And then there's a connection with the So if the Noldor don't go back to Middle Earth, then there's no ring of Barahir that goes back to Middle Earth, right? And so there's probably no, you know, eventual like tree that comes to Aragorn, right? So then you don't get Aragorn. I always think of weird stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
well,
Like
and
if this didn't happen, right, then none of this other stuff, like the whole butterfly effect of
right.
his teaching of, all these people.
Like changing Aulë changes more than anything else. It really does.
Yeah. If you make him a little bit more, if you make Aulë a little bit more picky about the people he teaches, there's so much of the story that goes away.
Well, yeah,
almost like 90% of the story goes away.
Well, yeah, like Noldor don't go over, like you were saying, right? So where's Galadriel then?
Right.
She's still over there.
Still, yeah.
Like she's she's not a part of this at all.
Yeah, there's no Arwen. There's never an Arwen.
Yeah, I was gonna say, does in this instance is there no? Oh shit, dude! Not even like Beren and Luthien don't exist because the only reason why Beren gets to be with the only reason why Beren gets to be with Luthien is because of the Silmaril.
Oh, that's right. Right.
And
no Elrond.
If he doesn't teach Feanor, then the Silmarils don't exist, and there's no Beren and Luthien. There's literally nothing about this story that exists if Aulë is just a little bit better at hiring.
Right. Yes. If he's better at hiring, or just not even hiring, just internship, like apprenticeships, right? Because that's essentially what he does.
Right.
If he's a little bit more Harvard about like his admission process to, his smithing school, then nothing exists. So
like
I guess you know what? You just convinced me. I should be grateful for Aulë. And his horrible ability to pick people to teach.
Yeah.
Because then we have zero stories.
Because I would actually say, like,
Aulë,
him creating the dwarves does not drive the story anywhere near as much as his fuck ups of hiring.
Right.
Like
the dwarves thing is more of a indication of who he is, right? His impatience, right? And because of his impatience, then we get the story that we get, right?
Yeah.
Because he's just like, I just want to teach people. Like he made the dwarves so he had someone to teach, right? Yeah. He wanted someone who was interested in the shit that he's interested in.
Yeah.
Right? And eventually he got it from other like Maiar.
Yeah.
Right?
And even like the elves, like certain elves were more interested in building and creating.
Yeah. And he could have just waited.
Yeah.
If he was a little bit more patient, right? Wife's happy. Then you don't have ends.
That's true.
Right? Because if he doesn't, right? You don't have ends.
Right.
So yeah,
but that's what I'm saying.
I was coming into this kind of like Aulë's just kind of dumbass, right? Like, what's his point? Like, what's his deal? Why can't he be better? Just be better. Be best.
Just be better.
And just now talking this out and realizing, well, we wouldn't have a story if he was better, right? It's probably a good thing that he's not better.
Oh, poor Aulë.
Poor Aulë.
I mean, that drives a lot of story, though, right? Like not just Aulë, because we can see him in other characters also. Like the small mess ups drive a lot of story, right? So like with Aulë, it's a big deal. Like with Aulë, there is literally, I mean, like I said, put the whole dwarf thing aside, right? Because that affected a very small amount of things compared to what he was going to do later on. And like you look at all of his little mess ups later on, and it just added and added and added and added. And it drives the story, and it drives it really well, but you don't realize that it all comes back to one person until you really get down to talking about it.
Yeah. And then, and the other thing about it too is, were all these fuck ups preordained, right?
Were they in the song?
Because were they in the song? And like, I don't know how you kind of view it within the Lord of the Rings world, right? If everything that happens for a reason and a purpose and a plan, right? And so if that's the case, then everything that we've seen, everything Morgoth did, everything that Aulë did, right, in being impatient and and this is where I'll come back to that, right? In being impatient and creating the dwarves, in teaching Sauron and teaching Saruman, right? And just everything that we see, is it already just like, well, this is what's going to happen, right? This person's going to know, not necessarily that he's going to teach them, and but they're gonna learn what they need to learn, and then they'll betray, right? I don't know if it's so much preordained as it is just happy coincidences.
Yeah.
That just kind of move along, right?
I think if you're reading, I mean, the way that I read it, and it definitely doesn't have to be this way, right? It's a little bit more fun to think of it as happy coincidences, but the way that I read it, everything that we've talked about, I mean, literally everything that we've talked about has dealt with Valar, Maya, and elves, right? All of it, and right. Dwarves also, but it's all dealt with that, right? So it's never, not once, in any of this situation have we talked about men who, in accordance to all of this, are the only ones that can change the song of the Ainur. Right? They're the only ones that have a choice.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So they're the only ones that have a choice to change the music of the Ainur, of their place in that music. And so if you're looking at it that way, then,
go ahead.
I mean, everything else is kind of this idea that Iluvatar puts out with Melkor of, you thought that you were trying to fuck up the song, but even with all of the evil, dark things that you sang, it was my will, right?
Right.
And so, like, does that carry in?
So does it?
I don't know. I mean, that's...
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, all I was gonna say is, yes, that does make, like, I did know, like, that men are not tied to the fate of what happens in Arda, right? They're not tied to, like, no one knows what happens to them when they die, right? The Ainur, like the ones that went to Ea, like, they're stuck until that whole thing plays out, right?
Right.
And then the elves are also tied to Arda, right? And however that all plays out, right? And I was just watching a video on, like, the end of days, right, for Middle Earth, right? The Dagger Lock, or something like that, right?
Dagor Bragollach.
And there's only that something, yeah. You'll fix
something like that.
You'll fix it.
Yeah.
And there's only one man who's involved in it. Turin,
that's right.
Yeah, Turin deals the death blow to
Morgoth.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, that's right.
To Morgoth. Yeah. And
that's in the second prophecy of Mandos.
Yeah. And actually he's involved, and technically the Numenorians are as well, but only a certain amount of them, because our Pharazôn and everyone who sailed with him to go attack Valinor, like, they've been stuck underground until that time, right? And then they get to like redeem themselves or whatever.
Yeah, they're in
but
purgatory.
The only man that actually plays the prominent role. Yeah, basically. So they're exempt, I guess. So yeah, it's, going back to what you were saying about, choice and men not having a choice, and that makes sense.
So I mean,
they're
that's
not
the thing.
Involved in anything that happens here.
Like, if we're going all the way back to the music, and in how that might affect everything playing out, right? I think we talked about this a little bit, but like, I've always seen the idea of like the music, and then even afterwards the vision, being this thing that's like out of time, right? It's not like, even the music itself isn't necessarily inside of time. It's just happening, right?
Right. It just is.
Yeah, because even in when Manwë is talking with Yavanna kind of like remembers things that she's saying, right? And she like because it's kind of coming back to her, and she's like, well, but I sang about this. Can't you remember that this was in the song? And he's like, oh, that's right, this did happen, right? And so I almost wonder if it's the same thing here, where it talks about how some of the Ainur kind of followed with Melkor. Like, was that every once in a while, did Melkor hit that, bass note like down in the cellar, right? And Aulë thought that was really cool and just dropped down in with him, and then he realized like, oh, that's not my part. Like, I'm gonna come back, Yeah. And like, that was it. Was that part of it? Was that him?
And that's him creating the dwarves. And then Melkor drops another beat, and he's like, I like that.
Yeah.
Boom, I'm teaching Sauron, right? Another beat, like second music, right? I'm gonna teach Feanor how to make the Silmarils.
Yeah, because why not?
Yeah.
And like, that's the thing, right? Is it's like,
it all goes back to the music.
Yeah, it all drops back to the music. So if that's the case, then I would have to say that it's like, it's one of these things that, again, like, of course it was supposed to, because we're reading it and this is how it plays out. But it was one of those things that from the beginning, maybe not destined, but like preordained to happen. It was supposed to happen. Aulë was just supposed to be the lovable fuck up. Like, that's just what it was.
Yeah. That's just who he is. That's who he's always been. And that was his part of the music.
Yeah, I think so.
I'd still be mad about it.
Oh yeah.
I still don't agree with it.
I still don't like it.
I still don't like it. I still think he should have been more selective in who he was teaching. But he had no choice, right? That was his, that's a sick beat. I'm going to go.
Yeah.
I'm going to go sing along with that guy. Wait. That's the wrong part. I shouldn't be doing that.
Oh, we didn't write that. I'm sorry. I gotta go back.
But see, this is where I think, like, okay, that makes sense to me, right? That does make sense to me. But I still think that the ones that were swayed are the ones that eventually ended up going and siding with Morgoth.
I think you're right. I think like I would say that is 90% correct, right? 90% of that, like, in that some of the Ainur followed along with his tune. I would say were like Belrogs and Shelob and whatever else, right? But like, I do think
Shelob's not,
or Ungoliant. And we don't know about Ungoliant, right? She could have been Outer Darkness stuff. She could have been a Maya. We don't know.
Yeah.
But still, right? Like I agree that like those, like 90% of that followed him probably ended up being like those, right? Those Maya that went all the way over to his side. But I do think that there's like a good amount of, I mean, look at Aulë.
OSSE, yeah.
E with the dots over it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
OSSE with the dots.
Yeah. So Aulë, I don't know.
Right
something.
Here.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, he basically almost gets completely swayed and like almost completely joins Melkor's side and then comes back.
Oh, that's right.
You know, so like I feel like there was.
It was his wife that convinced him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was because he liked violence. Like that's what it says. Like he never stopped loving violence.
Because that's who you want on your side.
Yeah. Right. But like it's good that he was able to come back, right? Because if we're talking about like his, I know this is not Aulë anymore, but if we're talking about like Aulë,
right,
and like him coming back over to that side, how great was that for like Valinor once they were trying to hide themselves from everybody else? Because he basically controlled the waves. Like that's where his violence came from, was fucking people up at sea.
Yeah.
And so he was an important part of like keeping Valinor hidden.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to see that like Sauron also could have been like swayed back, because when Morgoth was defeated, right? Like
he almost did. He was like
he had the
close.
option.
Yeah,
he almost did, and it was just his pride, and he's just like, I don't know what they're gonna do to me.
Yeah, he didn't want to apologize, and he was afraid that he would like end up in jail or something. So,
but then, like an idiot, he puts all his power into a little gold ring, right? and then it gets destroyed, and then he's gone forever.
By who?
He's not gone. By a hobbit from the Shire.
Does it though?
What? Oh no, by Gollum.
Right.
Right.
Everybody credits Frodo, but let's be real here.
Oh no, Frodo fucked up.
Yeah. Like, let's be real. It was Gollum.
Yeah. Well, it was Bilbo.
Yeah. That's true.
Right? It's Bilbo.
There's the thing. Without Aulë, would the Age of Men ever come to be?
What do you mean?
I mean,
like would men have dominion over Middle Earth?
Right.
Yeah.
You think so?
Well, it was the elves that were going to come to Valinor to be with the Valar, right?
Right.
Like they went over there to get them. They're the firstborn. They're coming over here. They're going to live in paradise, separate from, Middle Earth, right? I mean, are we going back to no elves, no Morgoth? I mean, we can't go back to no Morgoth, right?
No, I think what I'm saying is that like I feel like the way that it's presented, that like the Age of Men has to be earned. Right? And it's earned in losses on the side of the elves and gaining of understanding on the side of men.
Yeah.
And so Like, do they ever leave that paradise if it weren't for Aulë? If it weren't for our lovable fuck up?
No. He is the driving force of all of Middle Earth.
That's really kind of crazy. I kind of
Right?
love that we came to that conclusion.
Like, because, I mean, honestly, like, who else had as much impact on the story that we know?
No one.
Other than Aulë, right?
Maybe Melkor?
Maybe Melkor, right? Who had as much influence, aside from Melkor, who had as much influence on the story?
Yeah, no one. And that's the thing, is the reason why I say maybe Melkor is because I still think a lot of it, like if it weren't for Aulë teaching Sauron, would Melkor have gotten as powerful as he was? If Aulë hadn't have taught Saruman, would Sauron be able to get as powerful he was? Like, would he have even existed? Like, so, like, even Melkor doesn't have as much of a driving force.
No, Melkor's a little bit like, he knows a lot about everything, but he's not good at one thing.
Right.
And
he's evil,
he's powerful,
but a lot of that evil fell into his lap.
Yeah. Well, he was just curious.
Well, I mean later.
Right.
Like, once they're on
No, but
Earth,
I mean that's he's evil. Right.
So, like, what I'm saying is, like, once they're on Earth, Melkor's evil, right? But a lot of the, like, evil deeds that he did ended up kind of falling into his lap because of our lovable fuck up Aulë.
Right. Yeah, because he wouldn't have, I mean, Sauron's his lieutenant, but you could make the argument that Gothmog would have been his lieutenant if Sauron wasn't there. But
right,
then
but he got beat.
Is he as effective as Sauron is? No.
Yeah. Like, he's not. Yeah. I mean, we're gonna do a whole episode on Sauron.
I don't think. Okay. Yeah, Morgoth isn't as much of a driving force of ultimate events as Aulë is.
Yeah, no one is. Like,
no one.
I think you're right. There's not a single character in all of Tolkien legendarium that drives the story as much as Aulë.
That's the conclusion.
Yeah. I mean, that's like
he's a fuck up. He's a fuck up. I'm mad at him for all the fuck ups that he did. He's a bad boss. He doesn't know how to hire. But without that, you don't have the story.
Yeah.
And he is the driving force of the story.
And I think that what that is to say is that in everyone's life, if you're going to live a real life, there has to be a lovable fuck up in your circle. Or else you're not going to have a driving story.
You're not going to have an interesting story.
No. Yeah, exactly.
I'm okay. Yeah. I don't know if I agree with that part of
it. All right. Well, I think we can wrap that part up then.
All right.
All right. We'll talk to you later.